Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Song Revolution. Get ready to ramp up your songwriting. Hey everybody, welcome to 2025. We have an incredible year planned for you here at Nashville Christian Songwriters and Song Revolution. So tune in every week. We're going to be on a 12-month journey. We're going to be talking about that through the show today. You don't want to miss this, so stay tuned. We're going to have a great time today as we kick off this new year. I want to welcome to the show my buddy, my cohort, Bryant. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome to 2025.
A brand new season of the podcast.
Season 3.
Season 3?
You know,
Wow.
What do we have, 200 shows? And I just forgot to, start a new season, so.
Right. This is it, though. We're starting. We're kicking it off.
This is it. This is Season 3. It's going to be a big year. We're ahead of the game. We actually have been recording podcasts. We have some great people coming up. Leanna Crawford is going to be on the show. A revival of the group from the 90s, Out of Eden. We did a great show with them. Excited about that.
30 years, right?
30 years. I remember them. Do you remember Out of Eden?
Yeah. I had a maybe 1996 album.
Right.
I had a 98 and a 2000 that I wore them out.
They were like one of the original girl groups in Christian music anyway, African-American, three sisters, beautiful ladies. They were here in the studio recently, and we're going to be releasing that around some special releases for them in March. So you've got that to look forward to. And one of our great friends, Galen Crew, who's just passed over 1 billion streams in China.
And he didn't even know it.
He didn't even know it. That's the fun part, right?
Oh,
Can you imagine?
Such a great story.
So that's coming up in a few weeks. We're going to be teaching a lot on the show this year and just downloading so much great content. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
So
we're going to be doing about 2 of these teaching episodes per month and then 2 interviews with different songwriters. So
let's just, I'm just bursting with this because I'm so excited that we're going to be taking our listeners on a 12-month songwriting challenge. This is going to be so good.
Yeah, can't wait.
I know. The whole goal, and we've been around, we're in our 10th year now, so we're celebrating NCS 10 years. But we've always been about empowering songwriters. In fact, that's our mission statement, is to empower Christian songwriters and artists worldwide. And we're going to talk a little bit today even about how we do that as we unpack some content. But we decided to set aside this entire year to helping our listeners and anybody that wants to come along with us on a 12-month songwriting challenge where you add one songwriting skill a month.
Yep. We're going to be sending those out via email, social, all of the channels,
everywhere.
Every podcast, every month. Our podcast will be centered around that. And then also a monthly live training that we'll do from right here.
Yeah,
the podcast
absolutely.
Studio.
And it's free.
I mean,
we're not trying to just, rake in a bunch of dough.
Yep.
Feel free to send money if you want, but this
number at the bottom of the screen pops up. Yeah.
And if you donate now, you get the ginseng steamer, the steak knives, and
the 2,000-year food
or
that
something.
never
I don't know.
spoils. Yeah, I don't know.
But anyway, the whole point is to continue to pour into the body of Christ and to continue to impact the world with great songs for Jesus, because we know that's what you want to do. But to encourage and really even challenge aspiring songwriters to add one new skill a month. Okay, let's just kind of dive into your world for just a minute, because you're a producer, you're a songwriter, you have a group called Eau Claire. Not Eclair, but Eau Claire.
The dessert,
Every time we say it, I think of a chocolate Eclair. But anyway, we're going to be releasing some music, I hope, with you guys this year on our collective. But how did you first get into songwriting, and what would you say are some of the important skills that you've learned?
Wow. I actually had somebody tell me I was going to write songs before I even knew that I was.
Like a prophetic kind of thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was actually like a New Year's Eve sort of revival service.
What?
Yeah, we had this guy, Marvin Gorman was his name, a speaker, evangelist guy, and he was kind of one of those services where you didn't want to make eye contact with him because he might say something about your life, and he came by, and I'd played guitar that night on the worship team, and he was like, you were up there playing guitar tonight. I was like, yeah. He's like, I think you're gonna write, or whatever he said, but basically you're gonna write songs that the church is gonna sing, the world's gonna hear. And I was probably maybe 17 at the time, 18. And yeah, I hadn't written a song yet. The only thing I had done was a little competition thing in the church called Fine Arts Festival for all you Assemblies of God people out there. But I had written a song for that, and then that happened, and so it really set me on a path to like uncover what that meant for my life. And so that's really the journey I've been on since I was 18, to figure out what that means. How do I write a song? How do I finish a song? How do I get around people who are writing songs and I can learn more? And that's what ultimately led me to come to Nashville and the whole thing. So that's the short version.
And I met you right when you came to Nashville in 2017.
Yeah.
So what are some of the songwriting skills that you began to pick up?
Man, when I moved to Nashville or before?
Well, either, but I'm just kind of putting you on the spot.
Yeah. No, I think early on I was interested in recording and playing guitar. So I kind of started dabbling in recording and just trying to, sing and figure out microphones and recording my guitar and stuff like that. So I think for me, the songwriting portion, really just finishing songs was the hard part. Like coming up with an idea, I could kind of start, but really my own self-critic like shut everything down.
Yeah.
So it was always like, that's not good, that's lame, it's already been done, fill in the blank, right? So for me, it was really about belief, I think, in the beginning. And then once I got there, I started learning the more practical songwriting techniques and rhyme scheme and alliteration and all the things that, I had learned from just studying music over the years. And then I realized they were actual like techniques. And even like, your teaching, your master classes and curriculum helped me understand that even to a deeper level after we met. So
we met in a coffee shop. We've told that story a few times, so I won't recount the whole thing, but we wound up kind of bartering a little bit, right? You helped start this podcast, and you went through my 8-week mastery program that we've been doing. I can't believe we've been doing it so long. I think we've trained over about 330 or 40 songwriters through that, and many of whom have gone on to do albums and singles and be on TV and radio and podcast, and we even have a couple of Grammy noms, which is amazing. But we bartered. You set up the show, and you came through the program and picked up some good things, I hope. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I remember for me, one of the first things that I ever learned was from Bill Gaither. I wound up being mentored by Bill and his wife, Gloria. God bless them. They're like almost 90 years old now.
Wow.
It's crazy. I think we all stand on their shoulders in one way or the other. But the first thing I remember learning from Bill was the value of the title. And I know that people write all kinds of ways, and they write melodies to gibberish and then figure out what the title is. And that's cool if that works for you.
Right.
But I'm a little bit old school because I always prefer to start with a title. And I had the privilege of showing him songs several times a month, and he would listen, and he'd be really kind, like, yeah, little boy, you're fine. You're cute and all that.
You'll get there one day.
You'll get there one day. But he would ask me, like, who's going to care about this? And he taught me the value of a big idea. And he would say that. He'd say, this idea is just not big enough, to carry a whole song. And so that started tweaking my curiosity and helping me learn how to recognize a big idea. Another way to say that would be a more universal idea, or an idea that's more compelling. And so in all of our programs now, we teach that, like how to identify a compelling hook, a title. There are different kinds of hooks, melodic hooks and everything, but it's really about that title for me. So that was the first skill that I would say that I was challenged to learn, and so grateful. That I was able to do that.
That's huge. I mean, to learn from such a legend of a songwriter. What was that even like? I mean, turning in songs to Bill Gaither sounds like an insane opportunity.
I was just young and stupid. And I didn't know. I mean, we're talking 42 years ago. So
right.
He's more Bill Gaither than he was Bill Gaither.
Right, okay.
But he was still Bill Gaither,
Yeah,
now he's really Bill Gaither.
Yeah.
And iconic, And I didn't take it for granted at all. I knew it was a privilege, but I'm probably more starstruck by him today than I was back then.
Yeah.
And he was just kind. He was around and in and out. I worked at the publishing company that he and some other folks started and grew up to be vice president there. I was with them 7 years and got to work behind the scenes on a lot of different kinds of things. But I think in hindsight, I realize now the value is just gold. And it's really a lot of what we stand on and teach here. So, so it's really exciting to me to be able to download these skills through an entire year. So, so you guys be watching for the information in your email. If you're not on our email list yet, go over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and sign up. It's easy. You can find it there. And we're going to be sending out emails, and we've got this kicking. I don't even know how many pages guide. We've created this whole downloadable PDF that's going to guide you through the entire year, month to month. And tell everyone again, you mentioned the free songwriter training.
Yep.
Talk about that for just a minute, and we'll get into our content.
Yeah. So, once a month, we're really taking these concepts that we are talking about in the guide and doing that in a live setting. So we're interacting with people. We've got a chat window where you can contribute questions, get answers to questions. But we're really going to dive into these topics and speak from a practical level as well as a kind of 30,000-foot view of what it means to be a songwriter and become a better Christian songwriter. What I love about these lives as well is just kind of the opportunity to see behind the curtain of how the music industry works, even because obviously coming to Nashville 10 years ago, for me, almost 10 years ago, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how the music industry worked. I was actually renting books from the library to try to figure out how royalties work and how songwriters get paid and how you should even go about setting up your business as a songwriter.
Wait a minute, songwriters get paid?
Well, I found out the hard way that 10 years later, you don't get paid. You just write a bunch of songs and have a good time.
Yeah, right.
But
do it for the love.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I love those lives because it's just an opportunity to dig in deeper and to learn more. And we've really found out that obviously this is a long game, right? Being a songwriter is not an overnight. Very few people write one song and maybe it does blow up and go viral, but then they're not sustaining that long-term momentum, So it's really about setting yourself up foundationally right so that you can kind of do this thing for the long haul. And whether that means you work a 9-to-5 job and you write songs in the evening, what does success mean to you as a songwriter? Do you want to travel the world and go on tour and share your songs in places? Do you want to play in your local coffee shop or play at your church or lead worship at your church? Or do you want to work a corporate job and write songs with your friends and family to share, There's all kinds of different ways. So it's not a cookie cutter thing, but it is a long-term commitment to say, I'm in this for the long haul.
I love that. We have a lot of people in our NCS community who are business people or homemakers or moms and a few that travel that are doing the artist thing, and which is great. So it's all over the map. So it just kind of depends on where you feel God is leading you to be. Well, let's jump off of that because we want to get into some content today. Today's show is about getting unstuck, getting a plan, and getting heard. Songwriters, everyone wants to be heard. Why would you be a songwriter? I guess you could stick them in a box under the bed or leave them on your hard drive or your phone, but what's the fun in that, You write songs to be heard.
Yep.
Let me do a quick story here because through the years, I have personally spoken with probably over 3,000 potential songwriters, coming into our world, for training. And every one of them would say very similar things like, I felt this call to write when I was a teenager, or God touched my heart and I wanted to do this, or, they generally say that, and then they say, I just want to use my gifts and get my songs out there. That's like, or that I'm called. I know I'm called to this, And after about 1,000 of those calls, I got a little cynical. I was like, can all these people really be called? Could they really? I mean, do they know what a calling is? I got a little jaded for a little while. And then I think God kind of spoke to my heart a little bit, because it's like, no, wait a minute. Of course they're called. Of course God wants to use them, right?
Yeah.
Of course He wants His love and His healing and the message of the gospel to be out there through as many people as possible. So I kind of softened.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you're called. Well, let's figure out what that means for you.
Sure.
And so we've developed all of the programs we offer, but the podcast has been a huge part of that. And now the new NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge is about that. But the point is, God wants you to be heard. I believe that with all my heart. When you were called here, wanted you to be heard. You didn't know how it was going to happen, right?
Yeah. We strip away the songwriter title and just talk about like sharing the gospel, right?
Right.
That's the real thing behind everyone's calling anyway, right? Is to spread the good news and share the gospel. So if you do that through songs, then great. If you do that through whatever other medium, then great. But if you're called, which we're all called to do that, if you're equipped with the skills and you work out those skills and you're able to communicate, I think it really is about, at that point, you want people to hear the songs because you're sharing the love of God, right?
Absolutely. The people that scare me, I'm going to go out on a limb here just a little bit, but the people that scare me are the people that want to be famous, the people that want a platform handed to them, and maybe they're talented, maybe they're not, right?
Yeah.
And we can't give anybody any more talent than God did, but we can sure help develop talent, and that's what we're here to do. But the people that come in and they're very braggadocious and they just want to bluster their way into the music biz, it's like, wow, back off. That scares me, because I don't know, there's just not much of God's Spirit in that bravado, in that braggadocia.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull out some Italian words here, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Cappadocia, braggadocia. But it's like, you can tell it's about the spirit behind the talent, if you will. And I don't know how many kids come to the colleges here in Nashville and, they're full of themselves and they want to make it big, and The Voice and American Idol and all that kind of thing.
Right,
kind of American Idol syndrome. But, you know.
When they get knocked down a few levels because they realize that what it actually takes, or that we weren't really all designed to carry that sort of a weight,
Exactly.
So the fame thing. I mean, I don't know that anybody was really designed to be famous. I think that it's a cultural thing for sure, that we've, like you said, American Idol syndrome. A lot of us have grown up watching people, the pinnacle of success being a massive platform or a lot of money or whatever the metric is. So as a songwriter, I think you have to ask yourself, what is success for me, and how do I stay faithful to the calling versus getting caught up in all the things? Because there definitely are songwriters that have massive songs that go huge and they make a lot of residual money, and there's benefit to doing that. But if that's your goal, then you're going to be disappointed.
The goal has to be the impact and not the money.
Yeah, well, and we found that the people that come through our world that really have the most success, quote unquote, are the ones that weren't even seeking this thing. They weren't even looking for it. They were just a member of their church, or they were sitting in the congregation and they felt like the Lord was like, drop this thing. I think of one lady specifically who shared her story with us recently, who she said, I'm here, but I don't even know why. Like I'm here because I feel like I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And the Lord keeps dropping these song ideas in my head and I'm writing them down. And that's led me to this point of being at one of our writing retreats.
Right.
So it's really cool to see, I think maybe people assume that we work only with existing songwriters or people that are, really, they've been doing the thing for a long time. And the truth is we'll work with anyone who wants to come and be a student. But But yeah, those people that just, they say, I feel called, I feel passionate, but I have no idea where to start. We've had a lot of success helping those type of people.
My favorite people are the ones who want to write for God first, right? I mean, just because it's obedience, like you were just saying, but also for themselves, because they feel like they've got something that God's put in their hearts to say.
Yeah.
And I remember one particular student that I've had, a client over the years, and she wanted to write songs for her children. And it's like, oh, wow, that songs that impact your family, or even writing for your church. I just love that. And I've done that, through my ministry over the years, and have done we were doing church-based recordings before anybody heard of Hillsong.
Right.
We were doing it, before that was a thing. The church-based recordings, we wound up being distributed through Warner Brothers and impacting, quite a few people through that. So I love that, though. Writing for who you are and where you are first is really awesome.
Totally.
Well, let's transition, because it does take a lot, depending on your definition of making it in music.
Yep.
And I have a few ideas about that. I mean, everything starts with philosophy, right? I mean, philosophy down into methodology, So I find that a lot of times songwriters are missing kind of that philosophical understanding of it, and they want to jump to a viral hit before they even have an understanding of even the genre that they're writing for, right? Yeah. And so in the big picture, it does take talent. You have to be somewhat musically talented. I've worked with a couple of people who wanted to be artists, but they just couldn't sing, know?
Right.
I remember one guy that I worked with a few years ago, and I would literally, during our time together, I would just pray, God, please help me understand what melody he's singing, God bless him, and he got better over time because he was practicing a little more, but you have to have a little bit of talent, to move in this world,
Yep, I agree. I mean, it's easier to go from good to great than nothing to something.
Yeah.
Like there's kind of that element of raw talent has to exist to some degree, or you might as well do something different than learn the guitar, because it's not easy and it hurts your fingers all the time. So
or write poems, or write a book or devotionals or a blog, or do something, but to force yourself onto a world that isn't ready for your monotone.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say the flip side of that is? Like someone who, because we've also had people come through who maybe don't have as developed of a talent as someone else, but they work really hard and they get there. So what's the flip side of that? Like someone who maybe thinks, I don't have what it takes, or I'll never be able to sing like so-and-so, but I still feel like I'm supposed to write? That's
a great question. I think in the first place, it goes back to that stewardship thing we were talking about a while ago. If you feel this is your obedience to the Lord, well, by all means do it.
Yeah.
Monotone or not, right?
Yep.
You don't have to go learn how to play the guitar or the keyboard to become a songwriter. Many songwriters are not musicians or singers, but they just have this thing about songwriting. And so you can do that. I think that's the first thing, is just what does obedience look like? And then I think the next thing really is tenacity. And you've already mentioned this being a long game. And so if you are not as developed, say, vocally, but you have a little something to work with, get lessons. We set people up with vocal coaches all the time in our NCS collective when we're working with artists and producing them. We will often suggest that they get into some vocal training, and we have got great resources for that. So tenacity and just being willing to invest in yourself. If you want this, well, you've got to be tenacious enough to invest in yourself.
And to not give up when you don't get the response that you had hoped, right? You write one song and you show whether it's a publisher or your mom or whoever, your mom's probably going to like it. Well, just
If she's a good mom.
If she, but when you get that first no, or you get that first closed door from an opportunity that you thought was going to open up, how tenacious are you? Like, are you going to go back and try again, or are you going to give up and go mow lawns for a living?
Right.
Like you probably hear in the background right now.
Yeah.
Lawnmower outside, or blower or something.
I know, right? Well, Nashville is a town filled with no's. And just a few blocks from us on Music Row, and even here in our own area, there's so many record companies and publishing companies and writers, hear no every single day. Mm-hmm. But yes lives in the land of no's. Mm-hmm. And if you're not tenacious enough, then you're never going to hear a yes.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the fatal flaws that I see in people sometimes is they want to jump from undeveloped to hit songwriter. And they say, God gave me the song. And it's like, well, I would tweak that a little bit and just say, God inspired that idea in you, or God moved in your heart and you wrote a song.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it's an amazing song and that it ought to be immediately put on the airwaves, right?
Right. Totally.
So it's that willingness to develop yourself in the long game. Mm-hmm. And that takes, it takes time.
It does, yeah.
Being patient with the process.
Yep. And really falling in love with the process is the goal, right? Because it does take time. And if you're just trying to fast forward everything to that big success or that big hit, you're going to miss out on all the moments in between, all the developmental kind of milestones that you hit as a learning songwriter. There's really joy in the journey and in the process, right? If you don't fall in love with that, then you're always going to be hoping for the next thing to happen rather than being content with where you are.
I think we need to dedicate a show to that, and also to the difference between the spiritual side of songwriting that we feel as Christian songwriters, that God gives me songs, or God gives me ideas, or God wants me to do this, versus the real craft. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but the difference between the spiritual and the natural side, because they both exist, right? The ministry versus the business. It's not really versus. They really have to work together if you're going to make it in music.
For sure.
So, and a lot of people, I think they wind up, and maybe I've felt this too, maybe you have, getting stuck creatively in the process somewhere along the way. Maybe you're not developing yourself. Maybe you haven't been adding skills, or haven't been tenacious, or haven't put in the time. But you shut down, right? One of the big things I see people do is write with an empty heart and head. They're not living in that overflow of creativity, of intellectual development, and they sit around and wait for God to just drop, bombs of songs on them.
Right.
Then when
bombs of songs,
song bombs. But when he doesn't, and then they get disappointed, and then they don't want to go back and try, because it's like you have too many fruitless sessions, and you just quit, because it's like, why do that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, I'll tell you what, let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to be sharing with you guys how to get unstuck, to get a plan, and to get heard. We'll be right back. What would it feel like to have 52 weeks of access to the right people in Nashville? People who've been making music for decades. People who can answer every question that you have about what pro-level music making is all about. Well, you can get that and more by joining NCS Community. Our community is a group of worldwide dedicated Christian songwriters who want what you want, to glorify God with your gifts and to get your music out there. I hope that you'll consider joining NCS Community today. I really want to encourage you to join NCS Community. You just can't find this anywhere. Access to publishers, access to what's really happening in the music business, and to find the encouragement, the camaraderie, just the relationship and networking with dedicated Christian songwriters all over the world to just benefit and to grow this year like never before. So go ahead and join NCS. You can find all of that information in the show notes. So I hope you'll do that today. So Bryant, we've been talking a little bit about what it really takes to make it in music. And I know that there are different levels of that, whether you're writing for your family, you're writing for your church, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
Or writing for your own artistry, or hopefully, writing songs that could travel around the world. And there are different levels of making it.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had people come to us, saying how do I get heard? How do I become successful as a songwriter? And we've kind of developed a plan, right? We talked about it a little bit earlier, but a whole year-long plan for 2025 to take you from point A to point B, wherever you're starting at in your journey. Talk about that plan.
Well, I think that probably is just the first point to make, is whether you join our challenge or not, is to get a solid songwriting plan. And for me, when I came to town 40-something years ago, I wound up writing 4 and 5 nights a week. I was doing odd jobs. I was throwing newspapers out of the car window at 3 in the morning, back before we went digital. I kept a little notebook. I had song title ideas, which I still do, lyric ideas that I would write down. But because the door had opened for me to hang out with the Gaithers and other great writers at the time, my plan was to just get in gear every night. And my blessed poor little wife, she was kind of a songwriting music biz widow during that time, because I would do my odd jobs during the day and then write every night.
Wow.
And that really set me up for success, because I was co-writing. I was learning from other people that were ahead of me in songwriting, and that's why I'm still here.
Yeah.
Because I got some kind of plan in place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we were putting this plan together for 2025, what was kind of the thought behind where a songwriter needs to go? Like, what is that path for them? Just from like a 30,000 foot view, as we kind of detailed out 12 different months, right, worth of material.
I think that's really it. It's that intentionality to say, I think I know about songwriting and I think I know about creativity, but being maybe a little bit more humble than that. And instead of thinking that you're the total package right now, all that in a bag of chips, as they say, to really humble yourself and say, I want to learn. I want to get better. For me, I want to learn something every day. A great day is a day that I've learned something, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to help writers walk through 12 months of adding skills. Wow, talk about a great plan.
Yeah.
Awesome. and at no cost.
Right.
It's like, hello.
Right.
Who gets that, right?
Yeah.
And so to be able to participate in the free songwriting training sessions we're doing once a month, to joining NCS Community, which we hope everyone will do, but to walk together through this plan, the year's going to go by no matter what. We'll be sitting here next January welcoming everybody to 2026, and action is what makes all the difference. And so what I believe that writers can expect is for their minds to be blown with, walking with us for a whole year. They're going to get decades of experience poured into them, success, knowledge, creativity, kind of a bunch of kick in the butts. Can I say that on our podcast? I mean, some Holy Ghost kick in the butts, to where it's like, get up off your blessed assurance. Stop expecting God to just drop everything in your lap.
Right.
And get up and put some feet to the prayers and let's go do this thing, It can only be blessed, right?
Totally. Yeah, and you said earlier, everyone wanting to be heard, like as a songwriter, obviously the goal is to be heard. And that's almost kind of inevitable if you're writing at a high level, right? If you're making great songs, if you're making waves in those songs being released or whatever I go back to the quote. We've said this a lot on the podcast, but I think it was Centricity Music's Chad Segura, head of publishing, who was talking about, rather than submitting songs and trying to get them to hear, it's like make enough noise where you are and we'll
Love
find
that.
you. Like that's such a powerful statement. We've used that for a couple of years now because that was just so iconic, and especially in this age of independent musicians, independent artists. That's the name of the game, is just to make enough noise where you are and not struggle so hard to be heard, but just do what you love, and that will inevitably happen. Right?
Do your thing.
Do your
we've
thing.
been quoting Chad for so long, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pretend I said it.
Yeah.
Because
There you go.
we've used it a lot.
Yeah, for
but it's
sure.
so true, because in this day of independent songwriters and artists, the record labels are not looking for people that they're going to put $1 million into from scratch. They're looking for people who are already doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of where we are as NCS, is we get to be the artist development people, right? We get to offer that as a service. We get to help songwriters grow to the point where, maybe a record company, could recognize them,
Right.
I mean, we're getting to the point where the record labels aren't going to be as necessary because it's all DIY these days.
Sure,
But, we're in the season of the independent for sure. But
Totally.
But back to your original point, you are going to be heard. You can't keep a great song down. If you are developing yourself, I mean, there are no guarantees, and we can't sit here and guarantee somebody's going to get a publishing deal or a record deal or have something go viral. But if you're not doing it, you're certainly not going to get any of those things.
Right.
You got to get in the game and try and develop yourself and add these crafts, these skills rather to your craft, right?
Yep. So what would you say are some practical ways for writers to do that in 2025? Like if they were just going to dive in head first, go for it.
Yeah.
What's the first step? What do they do?
Join the 2025 NCS Songwriting Challenge.
There it is, step one.
For sure. We've already said that. Okay, I know. You're going to get tired of me saying it because you're going to hear it all the time. But that's it. And we're kind of, I'd say we're not just spoon feeding, but we're definitely laying it out in a very practical way. And so I think that is the very obvious choice. But the biggest, or the greatest answer rather, would be just to become intentional. That is a practical step, to decide that you are going to prioritize your writing, that you're going to make room for it. You're going to make space for it. They say that the number one reason that authors never get a book published, do you know what it is? They never write their book.
Wow.
They want to write.
They talk about it for decades.
They want, right?
Yeah. No,
they want to be an author.
Yeah.
And so I bet that there's probably a few thousand people listening to me right now that want to be songwriters. But you're not writing songs.
Wow.
Or maybe you write one song a year or two songs a year or whatever. You can't be a great songwriter with that low of an output in your songwriting.
Right.
Right?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
So
there was a moment for me, I mean, that was me 10 years ago, right? I'm like, I'm a songwriter. I'm supposed to be a songwriter. Now I've had someone tell me I'm a songwriter, but I wasn't writing songs.
Yeah.
So I maybe almost finished one, but then scrapped everything else.
Yeah.
And I actually have the notebook still, because I went and bought, as you do, the like moleskin, nice like black.
Love moleskins.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
they're great.
to write in and to capture ideas. And I have a page. I think it's 2015, right after moving to Nashville, that I just wrote at the top of the page, I am a songwriter.
Yeah, you are.
And I dated it. And I still have it. I've taken a picture of it before. But that was a moment for me that I look back and remember that I'm like, I am a songwriter. I'm saying it out loud. I'm writing it on this piece of paper. And this is going to be the notebook where I make that a reality, because I'm actually writing songs in this notebook. So, but yeah, you're totally right. Get around people that can also push you and help you along in the journey. And that's what we talked about earlier. Our community is a great step for that, to get around people who are like-minded, who you can collaborate with, you can learn from, and also have opportunities to hear from publishers, hear from professional songwriters. We were on a community call a few weeks ago, and we had Jackie Patillo from GMA, who's the director of GMA, walking through and doing a tour of our space. And so we turned the camera around and said, hey, well, little stuff
Yeah,
like that.
right.
There's your intro to the head of Gospel Music Association,
Right.
So just cool stuff like that happens when you're putting yourself in the position to be around people who make you better.
And I think just to play off of that for a minute, that intentionality, the first part of that is intention, right?
Yeah.
And if you feel God's called you to this, then the first thing is to set an intention. In fact, I'm teaching all month on setting intentions. That's actually the first part of the songwriting challenge, is why make useless New Year's resolutions. I've always sucked at that. I've never been able to keep those, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll tell you my resolution, and that I'm just really telling you what I'm not going to do.
Right.
Probably lose that 10 pounds or whatever. But if you can set an overall intention, which is basically like setting a course. You don't have to know how you're going to complete it. You just know that's where I'm going to go because I know that's where God wants me to go. I don't know totally how, like you did, dude. I mean, you came here, right? You came here knowing that you were supposed to.
Yeah.
You set an intention to follow after God. You didn't know how it was going to all turn out.
Right.
But yet you set that intention to be a good steward, to use your gifts and talents and just see where God led. So instead of a resolution, set an intention and then let God, begin to guide you each step of the way. It's like the old proverb says that the road will rise to meet you, so, but you've got to be stepping. And then in the Psalms, the steps of a righteous person are ordered of the Lord. But if you ain't stepping, he ain't got nothing to guide, right?
Right. So true.
Get up off your blessed assurance and go do something.
Yep.
So that intentionality is so important. Getting in community is really important. I think also, you want to be heard, but share your songs strategically. Mama's going to love them. Daddy's going to love them. Other people around you in your community, they're going to love them because they love you.
Yeah.
But with whom can you share your songs for accurate feedback?
Yeah.
Worship pastor, maybe?
Yeah. Friends, other collaborators. We were actually talking about some strategies, even like on social media and stuff today, about sharing a snippet. You see a lot of people sharing snippets of songs and the verse and the hook maybe, and then asking the question in the caption, like, should I finish it? Or just creating those opportunities for feedback and for testing an idea before you go put thousands of dollars into producing a song or hiring a producer or whatever. I think that's huge. Sharing strategically is a great way to put it, because you want to. What's the don't cast your pearls before the swine sort of thing. Like,
and we all have some pigs in our lives somewhere.
for sure. So if you're putting your songs out, I mean, you could even take that into a more literal, like, not maybe you have 20 songs and you just dump them all into Spotify and hope that somebody that's not really sharing them strategically, because we know how people are consuming music now, and it's going to be here today and gone tomorrow if you just drop it all at once. So I think that's a great point.
And it's something you've got to feel your way through, because sometimes I know that I've shared songs with someone and I loved the song, and if they didn't, I was dashed,
Yeah, right.
It's like, even after all these years of doing it, I know that I have to believe in them, of course, but I have to be willing to take the hits and, or take it on the jaw, if you will.
Yep.
Take it on the chin, I think is a real phrase, but you know what I mean?
It's pretty close.
I'd
to the
get
jaw.
there in a minute, my jaw is next to my chin. But to be able to receive the feedback that I need to grow as a writer. And I still get nervous about it. I do. I want people to love my songs just like anybody listening. But I've learned from many decades ago that just because I love it doesn't mean anybody else is.
Right.
So
the harsh reality.
Yeah. So share strategically. And I think that an important point is to make sure that you mentioned it a minute ago, that you don't over-invest in a song. That, I mean, I wish I had all the money spent every day in this town producing bad songs. Man, we'd have a helicopter pad on the roof with a helicopter and a private pilot because, man, people throw away the money because they get excited and God gave them a song and, you know, they get the feels and then they go spend a bunch of money. I had probably the worst story that I can relay about that. I had a guy, it's been a few years back, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but I didn't know this person, but somebody had them contact me, and they were just bragging on this song and that they'd spent $8,000 on this song, and so had played bass, and so had played guitars, and on down the line. And when I listened, that guy hates me now. I just said, dude, man, I mean, I guess he thought I was going to run to the nearest radio station and make it famous, you know, like I could do that anyway. But you know what I mean? I had to be honest. I said, dude, I mean, maybe I shouldn't have told him the truth. Maybe I should have.
No, you should have
put on a few Christian lies or something. But I told him the truth, and he was not happy with me because his idea of what a song was and mine were very, very different. Yeah. And he thought because he had it produced with all these fantastically high-paid, high-level music, the A+ string. Yeah. It didn't make the song, man. I mean, you go to the studio and you're under a microscope. Yeah. And producing a song actually brings out the flaws in a song.
Yeah. And who, at the end of the day, who really cares about who played on it? I mean, obviously, if you have a great iconic guitar solo from someone that you couldn't get on your own, if Slash plays on your song and you can't play guitar, it's probably, you know.
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, wow. Slash? I need a whole other podcast. Guitar players.
Just kidding.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, who really cares? If it's not a great song, then it's not going to matter who played on it. So there's balance in all things, right? To figure out what, you said it well, produce at an appropriate level or know what to put into a song based on how great the song itself is. So that's what I love about what we do is really hit the song at the base level. Like, can this song stand on its own? Can it stand without amazing production, just an acoustic guitar and a vocal? Because that's a great test, right? If the song can stand on its own without all the bells and whistles and Slash playing guitar solos. Yeah. That's a weird reference, but that's really the key is to have a song that can stand on its own and be a great song by itself in a simple form.
Well, you've just reminded me of another thing that Gaither would always say, and that was if you could sing the song a cappella and it was compelling, then you probably had a good song.
Wow,
you know?
That's
and
huge.
So, I mean, you think about singing Amazing Grace a cappella, or even What a Beautiful Name It Is. You can sing that chorus anyway, pretty much a cappella, and you know, my chains are gone, I've been set free. You know, Chris Tomlin. I mean, those are the songs that we remember. Right. And so, well, you guys think about these things and continue to set proper intentions for becoming a better writer this year and really fulfilling this passionate call that you feel. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Next week, we have a special guest on. We're going to be alternating teaching weeks, and next week's Leanna Crawford.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
God and Goat Yoga.
That's a great episode.
It is a great episode. Leanna Crawford is a wonderful young artist, and she's going to be singing a song for us, and it's a great episode. And then the week after that, Bryant and I will be back with Discovering Your Songwriting Zone of Genius. So I hope that you'll click the links in the show notes, that you will go ahead and join us in NCS Community. We meet every Tuesday, 11:30 Central, on circle.so, and if you click the link, get the information, I think you're going to love it. Get in community, get intentional with your writing. Click the link to join the NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge, and let's do this thing together this year in 2025.
I love it. Let's do it.
Thanks, Bryant. See you next time. Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you got some value, please help us share the love. Leave a like and a share and a good review. Be sure to check out everything that we have to offer you at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. We'll see you next time.